Mark here for Mark 2.0. Well, we have another iconic guest. With all these iconic guests, Gordon, that we've had on, we are just thrilled to have someone so well-rounded in Hollywood. A producer, director, acting, teacher, you name it. Michelle Danner, welcome to the podcast. Let's start out by talking about your new film, The Runner, that premieres.
I'm really excited to be on your show. I'm excited about The Runner. It's going to have, a theatrical release starting on the 19th, I believe, of August, and then it'll go on demand and people can see it. People have liked this movie very much. We had a very successful run on the festival circuit. We went to Europe, to this beautiful island called Ischia, a very nice film festival, the Ischia Film Festival, and we premiered it at CineQuest here in the States and did World Fest Houston and won many awards. It was just a great, reception that we had in early reviews, and Saban Films picked it up and they're distributing it. And so we're really excited. There's nothing like working hard on a movie and, wanting it to reach a lot of people.
Yeah, and will it be released in theaters or will it be streaming? Because with the platforms, streaming platforms,
It will be released in 15 cities, including Los Angeles.
Okay.
And it's so excited, yeah.
And which 15 cities, is it across the world or in the US?
In the US.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And was it originally going to be released in 2021, or that was just the festivals that it was released at?
No, when the moment that you show it, in festivals, in the movie theaters, they call it like a release.
I see.
It's not an official release.
Okay.
Yeah. But we did do a lot of festivals. That was great. Some of them virtual and some of them in person with COVID. But now, everything is pretty much in person, which is great.
And the feedback is great. I've seen that on IMDb that it's won a lot of awards.
Yep. We were very excited that it had such a great reception.
Did you ever think that it would be so popular so far?
No, I just, you tell the story because you really, really want as a filmmaker to tell the story you're telling. I detached to the outcome. I just, of course, I tell my kids it's more fun to win than to lose. So, it's better when it's got a better reception than not. But, it's all a learning experience. I have already realized that this part of my life, I also teach acting, but in this part of my life, I will be continuing to make movies only because I know that I have, on my board, on my vision board, several stories that I really, really want to tell. So I know that that's going to happen. I'm just excited. I told my children we're either going to be preparing for it, or we're going to be in the middle of doing it, or we're going to be putting it together.
Sure. And this is your 5th feature film, and you're already working on other films, right?
Yes, I just shot a movie called Miranda's Victim in New Jersey. It's about the Miranda rights. I'm really, really excited about that. And I'm editing it as we speak.
Okay. That's great. And what did you like best about this film? And one thing that strikes me about you is each film that you produce or direct, you always learn something brand new. Would you say so?
Absolutely. You just learn so many things. When you shoot a movie, you think you're shooting a certain movie.
Yeah.
And then when you look at it in the editing, you go, God, I didn't see that, and I didn't see that, or wish I had done that, or why did I do that? Or, it's just, it's nonstop. You're constantly learning. Hopefully, the more, I can tell you this, the more experience you have, the more you learn from your past mistakes, the better the new ride is. So I try to learn as much as I can.
Now, with your films, does it make a difference where the filming location is? And are most of your films, since you're based in LA, are they filmed in LA?
I've done a lot of films in LA. I've also shot in different parts of the world. This movie was shot on the East Coast in New Jersey.
Okay.
That we had some very unique locations. For instance, the first 8 days of the movie, we shot in an old courthouse of the 60s. So it was really authentic. And then we shot in a police station of the 60s. It
Sure.
was so authentic that the day after we finished shooting, they tore everything down. They demolished everything.
Wow.
And then we went to shoot in a house that was built in the 30s. I mean, we had some pretty unique, extraordinary locations. So it was great to shoot there. We would have, I'm sure, found some equally wonderful places to shoot here in LA, but it was great to shoot there. And also it was cool, which was nice. So it wasn't so cold. So hot. I mean, neither
Yeah.
not cold nor hot.
And you grew up in the industry with your father being with William Morris, right?
My father was an old timer of the William Morris Agency. He actually was asked, he didn't start in the mailroom. He was at the time a well-known producer, producing shows in South America and Europe. And they asked him to open up the first branch, the first offices of the Champs-Élysées in Paris and France. And he did that in 1963 or 4.
Okay.
So that's how I, speak French, and I grew up in Paris. And so did my sisters. And, that when I was in my teens, I moved back to the United States, to New York.
Sure. Well, Gordon's back. We had lost him for a minute. Gordon, why don't you chime in?
Well, I wanted to ask, actually had the audio and I was listening while I was fixing my connection. And I heard you saying that, you sound like someone writing a novel, and you go back and you reread what you've written and you see all the syntax and you say, but I imagine that there has to be moments where you say, wow, when you're in the editing process, where you have to say, wow, I didn't, this scene, I wasn't expecting that. And you must find little bits of gold, I would imagine.
Oh, in every scene. In every scene, it's either, obviously I was there, so I remember, it's either confirmation of, depends how far you edit from when you finish shooting, right? But it was either it's a confirmation of what you witnessed, what you saw, and then things that, you didn't register in the moment,
Right.
like a look that it's like a golden moment or something, an extra ad lib, something that really works well, that cements the scene. So yeah, I love the editing process, although I'll tell you that it's very tiring. It's exhausting.
I imagine.
All of it is exhausting when you're shooting it, when you're prepping it. It's all, I probably shouldn't say this because it feels too strong and too dramatic, but somebody else said it to me. So I'll repeat what somebody else said to me today. I said, how are you recovering from shooting? And they said, yeah, it's like coming back from war. PTSD. So I think it's probably too strong, but it does feel like you put your body through something, and when you're editing, it's it's all encompassing, every phase of it, but also thrilling, along the way. At some point during the day, you go, this is so great, and then at other points you go, oh God, I want this to be over today. So it's a mix of all of it. It's a mixed bag.
Well, thrown into that, as I understand it, The Runner was supposed to premiere last year, and I'm guessing COVID gummied up the work, so to speak.
Yes, I think that, but we're coming out of COVID, which is great.
Yes.
And for me, COVID was a very fruitful time. I was very, very busy creatively all the time. I loved the pause. I loved it. I loved that I didn't have to run on the treadmill all the time. It was a great feeling.
Well, the question I had is, you've been through this process where you're, mind, body, heart, and soul, you're giving everything you can to the production, the editing, you're talking to distribution, because you're in every aspect.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and you're running toward that finish line, toward a release date, and then all of a sudden it gets pushed out a year. That must have been something to deal with.
Yeah, no, I was fine with it. I mean, I'm very zen when it comes to that. When things are ready to come out, they're ready to come out. It's all good. I'm just so busy with all kinds of projects that, when the time is ready, it's good. I'm glad it's coming out now. And I
Yes.
think it's going to have a very, very, there's a very strong distribution arm behind it. Saban Films is a really good company. And I'm sure that they're going to get it everywhere. So it's very exciting. It's very, you just want the work to be seen.
Well, I wasn't invited to the screen, the pre-screening, so all I've been able to see is the trailer. But I have to tell you, the first thing that popped into my mind in watching the trailer, Quentin Tarantino came immediately to my mind.
Well, that's a big compliment. I don't know, but I know the movie's engaging, and I know that, and you feel for it, and it's beautifully shot thanks to my wonderful director of photography, Pierluigi Malavasi, and I had great, a wonderful production designer, Alessandra Manias, and wonderful costume designer, Lorraine Wilson. I mean, I had, the artistic team was great, and then I had these actors, this young newcomer, Edouard Philippe now, who's wonderful, and Cameron Douglas, and Elizabeth Roman, Eric Balfour, all of them extraordinary actors. So when you have really, really good actors, you can tell a compelling story.
And Mark touched on the fact that you have a school that teaches acting.
Yes. We have the Los Angeles Acting Conservatory, which is a school that offers programs in acting and filmmaking. And then the Michel Danner Acting Studio, which also offers classes for, all levels, from beginner to intermediate to advanced, from children to teens to adults. And so we have some wonderful, wonderful classes and a great faculty of teachers, and I teach as well. And it's a way to give back, and it's a way to really hand it down to a younger generation, to another generation, which I think is important. And I'm a great believer in studying. So I've studied and continue to study my whole life. I study all the time, and I just always think you have to take classes and just keep learning, keep watching, keep reading nonstop.
One thing that strikes me about you is just your love for the arts, the performing arts, films, you name it, and your work ethic. But what would be your key to longevity in the industry?
I think you have to be patient, and you have to hook inside of yourself to things that you want to say. Like, what are the things that you want to say? What's important to you? Every story's been told, but when you look at somebody and somebody said, well, we've seen it already. It's been told. Yeah, but you haven't told it. It never came from your perspective. So every artist has a voice, and it's okay to take time to find your voice, to find the things that you want to say in your work.
One question I wanted to ask you was with respect to, we've had a number of actors on the show. I have friends who have acted both on stage and on film. And they're two different dynamics. Acting on stage, treading the boards versus being on it doesn't matter whether it's on a set or on location. Film and the stage are two totally different dynamics. And how do you approach that in terms of coaching when you're teaching acting as a profession, as a vocation?
Well, you're right. And, it's about understanding when you're on a movie, when you're on a set, there's a whole other process that goes on. However, the process of script analysis for an actor, the first time an actor gets a script, whether he's doing a movie, she's doing a movie, a television show, a play, that process is the same. You are a detective reading the script, analyzing it, looking for clues, thinking about the character, creating the character, building the backstory. All of that is similar. Where the difference comes in, it's in the execution of it. You know, when I loved this quote, I think this kind of says it. Walter Matthau had a quote that said, when you're doing theater, when you're on stage, you're playing tennis. When you are making a movie, you're playing ping pong. And when you're doing a TV show, you are playing marbles. And I love that was so great. It's that amount of energy that you put forth, you know, you understand the medium that you're in. So let's say you're doing a wide shot in a movie. It is like you're playing tennis. It is like you're on stage.
Yes.
And then you have to be sensitive to the fact that if you are, you know, in a close-up or an extreme close-up, you know, you want to, you know, when the camera's close, the camera comes and gets it from you. And that's a whole technique that, you know, and as an actor, you want to, you know, be comfortable with. You want to exercise those muscles. So when you are on set and they call action, you are able to deliver. You know, I had a wonderful actress in my last movie. She was great. I loved her, but she was doing too much with her face. You know, and when you're on stage and you're, you know, reaching 2,000 people or 1,000 people or 500 or 200, you know, can, you know, overdo it more. When you are, you know, when you have to find the inner life and the stillness when camera is so close.
Sure.
Have you ever heard Michael Caine's, he had a famous quote where a interviewer asked him, you've done so many movies through your career. How do you decide when you're given a script, how do you decide whether you're going to take the movie or not? And Michael Caine said, oh, it's very simple. I look at a script, I read the first page, I read the last page. If I'm on both pages, I do the movie.
Yeah, no, I on Masterclass, there's Ellen Mirren said, I go to the last page where my character appears. And depending how they leave the story is whether, you know, she's intrigued and she does it or doesn't do it. So yeah, the arc of the character, you know, what happens to them.
Right, backwards and forwards and everything else.
Exactly.
What is the difference between working on a budget like this compared to, you know, being independent film compared to having Warner Brothers money?
Great question.
Yeah, well, you know, if you would have interviewed me 2 months ago, I would have known exactly, but now I know. I like the small intimate stuff, you know, the same way I don't like a big house. I like a smaller house. I just like the intimacy of a set when there's less people. But I believe that a lot of directors say that. But when you have a big story to tell, such as this last movie, it's a period piece. And there's a lot of people, there were a lot of featured actors, there were big courtroom scenes, Supreme Court. You know, when you have stuff like that, you can't do it on a shoestring, obviously. You can't do it in a small indie movie. You have to, you know, have more than that if you're going to do it well.
Sure.
And we wanted to do it well. You know, we had this wonderful writer, producer, George Colbert, who just, you know, made so many things happen. He was like a magician. And we did it on a bigger scale than what we initially anticipated. But you know, the project, the way that it was written and where we shot it was conducive to that. But I do like small indie movies. I mean, I really, really do. You know, when you see like, you know, 10 trucks and unions represented and all these people and, you know, 20 Teamsters and, you know, it's a lot. You go, whoa.
Sure.
But I stayed very focused. You know, it was a great shoot for me. I was incredibly, incredibly focused, even though I got sick a little bit because they let me wear these masks, these transparent masks, so I could talk to the actors. Donald Sutherland was on set, Andy Garcia. I mean, we had like this cast from heaven. And so we were in this like old police station, and you know, they do the smoke for the movie, and then people were smoking the cigarettes, the herbal cigarettes, and the combination of that got inside of my mask.
Oh yeah.
Gave me like a throat infection. So I was like super sick. And but I didn't skip a beat. I was there. As a matter of fact, during my lunch one day, I went to urgent care because I couldn't swallow water. And she said, "Oh my gosh, because I think you have an abscess in your throat. You have to run to the hospital because if not, you could die because it could attack your blood and you could have a blood infection. You could die." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I went back on set. But you know, if you are sick, if the director's sick, everything stops.
Sure.
Everything shuts down. They can't do anything. What can they do if the director's not there? You know, my director of photography was sick and he took off, and you know, we were still okay. It wasn't great, but I mean, we could manage. We shot. We didn't lose the day. But if the director goes, then we're done. And the same thing like the lead actors, we're done, you know. So anyway, I went back to shoot, and then I went after we finished. I went to the hospital, to the emergency room, and did a scan, and turned out that I had a bad infection, but it was okay. I didn't have the abscess that needed to be pierced, so it was all good. But yeah, I mean, you know, whatever obstacles happen, you have to just, you know, plow through, and you have to be strong, and you have to stay in there because that's what you signed up for.
Well, I have to take a minor exception. This is a nitpicky point, but I must say you keep referring to The Runner as a period piece.
Oh no, so I was so sorry.
No, you're talking about the next film that's
This
coming
the
out.
next
instance,
one.
I talked about what I just finished shooting, Miranda's Victim.
Yeah.
Miranda's
Well, The
Victim.
Runner is not period. No, no,
No,
no.
no,
Okay.
no.
Okay, well, still, the term period piece for a film in the 1960s, well, I know that's accurate. That's my lifetime. I hear period piece and I think of Les Miserables. I think of The Untouchables. I think of something from 70, 80, 90 years ago.
I hear you. But yeah, the 60s. Well, you know, I mean, I was born in the 60s, so, but it
Same
is
here.
period. It's definitely period.
What
And
was
we
the
didn't
one
have cell phones back then. It's tough to
Sure.
imagine
Oh, yeah.
what life was like, you know, before we had computers and printers and cell phones and iPads, right?
Well, you know, what's amazing about talking to you is that there's so many avenues you can go down. There's the directing, there's the producing, there's the acting, and there's so many, you know, they all work together. But which of the three do you enjoy most?
Yeah, all of it. I do. I really, really do. I mean, if I had to say, I would probably enjoy the least producing. But the truth of the matter is that I do enjoy it. My son is a filmmaker, and I have produced some of his shorts that have won awards. And he is going to make one movie after the next. And I'm going to be happy to produce them. And in a way, it's relaxing to produce because you don't have the weight of the vision of the movie on your shoulders. And so I would say that I know that I have enjoyed and will enjoy producing. I love acting, you know, that there's a movie that I'm going to shoot called The Italians that I'm going to act in. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I love to direct because you get to sign the painting. I always say, you know, you pick the canvas, the colors, you know, the materials, you sign it, you tell the story. So it's great. You get to call it.
Awesome. And I'm curious now with Miranda's story being set in New Jersey, 1960s, what were the challenges in terms of, you know, if you have scenes with vehicles in them, you know, the dress is simple enough, but there's so much of the background. How difficult
We had
is it to
great
recreate?
picture cars. We closed down the streets. We had great picture cars. Yeah, we had some really, we found some extraordinary places to make it happen. I mean, and we had lots of good production value, and we shot it on film. That was the big thing. Early on, I realized that I wanted to shoot it on film because if I was ever going to fight to shoot something on film, it would have been that. And it was, you know, expensive. It's more expensive to shoot it on film. That's why people have shot on, you know, on HD. But the look of it, it elevates the movie. It makes it richer. So, you know, listen, I shot all my movies on the Alexa, except for my first movie. My first movie, I shot it on Kodak, a top stock of Kodak, and this last movie. So right now, my work has been bookended by 2 movies on film and everything else on the HD. But Yeah, it's been great. I mean, the look of it, it's so beautiful.
Well, I'm looking at, I've seen the trailers for The Runner, and as I mentioned earlier, first thing that came to mind, the intensity struck me as Tarantino-esque. And this Miranda story with Andy Garcia, with Donald Sutherland, can you get a bigger cast than that? Donald Sutherland I know he's been nominated. Has he won he's won an Academy Award, has he not?
Yes, he has an Oscar. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was
I wasn't.
incredible. He was the angel of this movie, really. And the beautiful emails that he still writes me, he said, go make a good film, Michelle. He was great. And Andy Garcia, my God, was fantastic. And Kyle MacLachlan, my son was beside himself because of Twin Peaks, Kyle MacLachlan was in it, and Ryan Felipe and Luke Wilson. And the lead was played by Abigail Breslin, who we all know from Little Miss Sunshine. And she's, she gives a performance. Wait till you see. Her mother was played by the incredible actress Mireille Enos. The sister by, I have no words for any of all these actors. Emily Van Camp played her sister. Joshua Bowman played her husband. Nolan Gold from Modern Family played her love interest. Taryn Manning from Orange is the New Black played Miranda's girlfriend. And Miranda was played by a newcomer called Sebastian Quinn. And and I said Luke Wilson, right? I mean, listen.
Yeah. Who haven't you worked with?
I don't even know how this happened. I was processing this. I said, I don't think I've processed this incredible cast that we got.
But part of it is that you're so talented. I think that's how it happens. Don't you?
Thank you.
Hardworking and talented. The two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, The Runner is coming out. It may be out now.
No, it's coming out now on August 19th.
Yeah.
August 19th. Yeah.
Yeah. And where is it going to be in wide release? Is it going to be?
It's going to do 15 cities across the US.
Okay.
And then it'll be on demand in every place you can imagine. It's going to be everywhere.
Okay, because I know that movies, when they start out in limited release, everything is dependent upon how big it blows up, whether it makes it to Belleville, little tiny Belleville, Ontario, where the Cineplex is, half an hour from where I live in the sticks.
But in today's world, it's all streaming. So
yeah, I think you will see it. They already told me it's going to have a large distribution. So I'm very excited about it.
And we also encourage you to check out her other films too. You can look on IMDb, and a lot of them you can find on if you have like an Amazon Fire Stick or you name it.
Yeah, there's Bad Impulse. It's a psychological thriller.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Wonderful actors. Paul Sorvino was in it. And I did 2 movies with Paul Sorvino, a comedy and a psychological thriller. So saddened, by his passing.
Sure.
And before that, I did a movie called The Bandit, Hound, a family movie. Before that, I did a movie called Hello Herman with Norman Reedus and Garrett Backstrom, who I realized was calling me while we've been talking in this podcast. He called me, and so I still keep in touch with all these actors. And before that, I had my first movie, How to Go on a Date in Queens. So it was How to Go on a Date in Queens, Hello Herman, Bandit, Hound, Bad Impulse, The Runner. So this is my 6th movie, Miranda's Victim. So The Runner is my 5th movie. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and The Runner, August 19th, starting out in 15 cities and then blowing up all over in wide release, and of course on streaming platforms. And Miranda's story, do you have any targets in terms of when that's going to be coming out?
Probably next year. The March 2023 marks the 60th anniversary. Oh my God, 60th anniversary of when the Miranda story happened. When this girl, Patricia Weir, got kidnapped and driven to the desert and raped. And then in the span, the story, the movie that was shoot was in the span of 13 years until his demise, until 1975. And nobody really knows this story. I mean, this is the incredible thing, is that this story has not been told. But we all know when people get arrested, the right to remain silent. And then the other thing is, while we were shooting, the Supreme Court, did some reversal of some Miranda rules, limiting the Miranda rights. So that was also pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, it'll be almost like a primer for anyone going into law school.
Exactly.
Well, we
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on, Michelle. We'll also post the links to your YouTube channel, your acting studio, one of the most talented around. We really appreciate this. If you like these podcasts, share them out, follow us, subscribe. We're on all audio platforms, video version on YouTube. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.